Yo, what is going on today, YouTube? Hope you guys are doing fantastic. Smite 2 is just around the corner. It is now Friday. It is coming out Tuesday. And we've got a massive update notes to go over. If you guys are interested in this type of content, more informational stuff, and just going over some of like the changes that Smite is doing, or Smite 2 is doing, make sure you guys drop a follow, subscribe to the channel. Let's jump into this banger patch, honestly. Smite 2 closed Alpha 1 update notes. I'm expecting a massive patch. Like, look at all this to go over. All right, starting with the specific features. Okay, let's just go over them pretty quickly. Illustrated card art returns, so they're not doing those 3D renders anymore. They're doing actual card arts, and the card arts, so it's a good thing to bring it back. Yes, I understand they're a little bit of extra work, but the card arts bang. Environment overhaul for style and fantasy. I went over this from before. The environment overhaul is a little bit different. It is just a big update, a W for this. Game-wide performance updates, W. K-screen and ability screens, perfect. Needed those eventually. Glad they're getting them in. HUD art layout adjustments. Excited to see what that looks like. 20 plus Smite 1 items added to Smite 2. Let me start off with saying I like some of them being added. Specific ones like Thebes, I don't like. Thebes is a boring item. It has been the support starter item. It's not like an actual starter, but it's the item you start with for the past genuinely 7 years. So there's a couple that I don't love, but a couple of them are pretty good. Minion knockback AI grouping matched to Smite 1. The minion knockback and like the minion AI as a whole was one of my biggest hates of Smite 2. Trying to clear a wave and having like the minion like get hit back for a second and then like TP back to where he was, or like hitting him and then he moves out of the way and then you can one-shot him with your next auto and get the execute. It was just all terrible. I hated it. So I'm excited that the minion AI and the minion knockback matches more to Smite 1. Itemization and system changes and UI updates. Short description made in store UI. Wards and consumable slots and function like Smite 1. That's too many ands. Wards and consumable slots function like Smite 1 is what I assume. Starter items are back. Active item system changes and a better HUD support, and revised component building. It's basically like simplifying the component building, I think is the best way to say that. Revised god damage typing and scaling systems. I talked about this in the last video, and I don't want to make it to a big thing because it wasn't supposed to be a big thing. I was the only somewhat kind of issue I have with this, the damage typing, is that other MOBAs have it where what the god is building is the type of damage that they'll be doing. So once you learn the character, it's very easy to understand. In Smite 2, if you're playing against a Neith who does physical damage no matter what, and you see she's building only intelligence items, before you really understand that characters only do that, or what type of damage it does, or when you're trying to play that character and then you're going to be trying to build her, or looking up builds for Neith because you played against a person who is playing really well, it just makes it a little bit more confusing in my opinion. Is it super not confusing the other way? No, absolutely not. It's going to be confusing anyway. MOBAs are difficult. They're hard. All I was saying is that it makes it just a little bit weird. It's not that big of a deal. It's fine. Would I have changed it? No, but that's okay. Iris doesn't have to do everything that I say. Just saying. It makes it just a little bit weird. That's fine. So the change to this is all gods will only deal one type of damage, and all gods can still buy all items. Gods will be split into 3 groups: 100% strength, 100% intelligence, and hybrid. And then tanks will now have unique protection scalings on their abilities. Magical physical pen is removed. It's just penetration. That's for all the items and then god things with how they're doing damage. Reworked many existing god mechanics to address fields issues and functionality inconsistencies with Smite 1. Big. Reworked many existing god visual FX for better clarity. This is like the biggest, I don't know why I didn't finish. Clarity, performance, and impact. W. Massive W. Added LOD system that throttles. I don't know what an LOD system is, so I'm not going to speak on that one. Future upgrades will use the system to throttle based on distance and number of active. Don't know what that means either. First major pass of bounding box configuration to reduce so many things that I just don't understand. Reworked many existing god audio SFX. I know this one. The audio will just be slightly more closer to Smite 1 than how it was in the past few weekends of Smite 2. Release details. Smite 2 closed alpha will go online and be playable 24/7. Started on August 27th at roughly 7 a.m. Eastern. From that point on, all progress account item ownership will be permanent. Players will launch into this version of the game using the SMITE 2 entry in your Steam. And all future updates will continue using this primary app. To guarantee yourself a way to play, purchase a Founders Pack. There will be other ways to obtain codes to play, but those will be limited. So, there was a bunch of questions about this in my last video. You have to buy the Founders Pack to guarantee your way to play. And I didn't know how much information was released, so I didn't respond to many of those. But there will be codes that Hi-Rez will be releasing. I don't know if they've mentioned or talked about it, but there will be ways to get codes to play without buying the Founders Pack. Now, are you guaranteed to get one of those codes? Absolutely not. Do not say, Inbound said we didn't have to purchase the Founders Pack. Because to guarantee, you need the Founders Pack. But there will be opportunities for those that don't want to put that money towards the Founders Pack. Maybe you just don't have that extra income to put towards the Founders Pack, or maybe you just don't want to, or maybe you're still worried about SMITE 2, so you don't want to pay for it. Whatever reason there is, there will be free ways to play, but there, as they said, they will be limited. So don't guarantee it. It's only Founders Pack to guarantee it. Settings. A settings screen has been reordered to better fit industry standards in SMITE 1's flow. Big, I guess. Video settings, many graphic settings have been adjusted in their functionality for improved performance. Big. Post-process quality, low setting is medium, cannot go lower. Brightness forced reset back to 50. Opacity sliders for VFX have been fixed. Players can now individually scale the opacity of the in-game particle effects. W. Audio settings, push to talk is now the default voice chat setting. Default key is shift for PC. Consoles will also default to this option, but will need to choose a push to talk button in order to use voice chat or push to talk off, or turn push to talk off. Gameplay settings, casting types per ability have been added. This is something that everyone's been asking for, even in SMITE 1. This is awesome. Well, I guess I read this slightly wrong because it's only abilities. I was hoping that it would be like relics and stuff like that also. So it's not something that's been asking for SMITE 1, but I hope actives and what are they called? Not utilities. Actives, active items, and the utility button, whatever it is. I hope you can set those to either being like instant or whatever, and it doesn't have to be just all the base one, and then you have to... It was a whole problem in SMITE 1, but hopefully eventually that'll be added. Color blindness modes have been added. Awesome. Some settings that weren't fully functional were also removed. VFX, player adjustable FX opacity. Trying to make combat more readable and improve clarity. Something brand new to SMITE 2 we've implemented is allowing players to scale the transparency. You guys are on your own with that one. I don't know. This is... That's not English. You're a moron. Performance update. Significant efforts taken in order to improve FPS and connectivity. I know that one. That's a W. Players should notice a significant improvement compared to alpha weekends and larger impacts on the performance from changed video settings. Big. Updated sound FX for killing a god. Added announcer VO for enemy has been slain. Minions have spawned. Your tower is under attack. Your phoenix is under attack. Okay, big. Gold burst on killing minions and gods now has proper VFX and sends a projectile towards the player. Nice. They now have a report player option in the tab screen. You can now mute players as you see fit. Player behavior policies are consistent across all high-res games. Player reports will be reviewed and bans will be applied at various lengths or permabans depending on the offense, and deserter penalty is in effect. They are adding 6 servers: NA, EU, LATAM North, LATAM South, North Asia, and Oceania. Big. This is the exciting portion of it. SMITE 2 rank system goals: increase the player base, enhance the competition. There will be a test season to start. Different features will be rolled out over the course of the test season to evaluate them individually and for changes to be made as necessary. Basically, there's going to be testing a bunch of different things, which is good. Trying to like see what lands, what sticks, and what's just horrible, I think is a good idea, especially in this beginning portion of ranked. SR is a brand new ranking system designed for SMITE 2. Skill rating is an all-in-one system which describes your skill level and rank tier in SMITE 2 ranked conquest. Previously, these two systems were characterized separately as MMR and TP. Core functionality behind SR is all players will start at the minimum SR, which is 0, so you cannot go below 0. There's no negatives, but there is 0. SR will adjust more quickly when the system believes you are underrated, but will not heavily penalize a player who has overachieved. SR is an uncapped value, meaning that the only limit on how high it can go is determined by a player's skill level. So if Paul decided to just sweat every single game and dominate every game, there is a possibility that he could reach like 7,000, 8,000 or whatever, or other top players adapting. If you are that much better than the other people queuing ranked, you can keep climbing, which is good. At the top end, SR is designed to reward a higher win rate over a higher win count to encourage serious competition at the highest levels. Big. So win rate matters more than win amount, which is massive. Hi-Rez had a problem in SMITE 1 where The number one player was actually just whoever queued the most games and won the most games. But it wasn't like you had to win games at 3,500 MMR. You could literally be 3,400 MMR or like 2,000 MMR, play 1,000 games, and then just go on like 1,000 MMR win streak, and then just be number one. So huge W there. SR's integration into ranked matchmaking will expand over time, with the first iteration in the test season not being the final intent. Updates to come soon. Looking at the new ranked system, this is what it is. So instead of bronze, silver, gold, platinum, diamond, master, grandmasters, it is now amber, bronze, silver, gold, platinum, diamond, obsidian, master, and demigod. I assume that the average is going to be silver. I'm pretty sure gold became the average in Smite 1, but I think that's weird. Usually silver is like the most populated rank, so I wouldn't be surprised if it's silver again, because 2000 SR is not easy. And then if you're getting up to like master, obsidian, stuff like that, you're a heck of a player. At demigod, there will no longer be divisions. Rather, the way to separate yourself in the competition is to achieve a higher skill rate or higher skill rating. And once in demigod rank, players will battle to earn the rank of deity. This is the most prestigious rank in Smite 2, which is reserved for the top 100 players worldwide. To earn deity, a player must gain at least 500 SR in demigod and be in the top 100 players ranked by SR worldwide. So that's sick. That is sick. It is possible to derank from all ranks in Smite 2. Love it. So this is how League does it also. If you're at 1 SR, at 801 SR in bronze, and you lose that game, you wouldn't demote to, like, say you lost 10 SR for that game. You wouldn't demote to 791 SR and then be amber. You would demote to 800 SR in bronze, and then you play a demotion match, which if you win it, you don't demote. If you lose, you do demote. So you have that extra cushion to be, I don't want to say... all I'll say is it feels good in TFT and in League when you promote to Gold 1, and then as you're demoting and getting lower, going to Gold 2, Gold 3, Gold 4, you have those extra games where it's like you're playing poorly to not demote right away. You'll have like that one game where you can play badly and you don't get demoted just because of the one game. A rank system with fewer restrictions on parties can allow a larger influx of players. What? Heavy restrictions also encourage other undesirable behaviors such as smurfing. I personally am of the opinion that smurfing is actually good for the game if said player smurfing is trying his hardest. I thought it was really fun to smurf, but play in every single role with each of those accounts. So I had an account for solo, account for mid, account for support, and my MMR would fluctuate depending on how good I played in that role. Was I a 3000 MMR solo laner? Yes. Was I a 3000 MMR ADC? No. So on and so forth. I thought it was a lot more fun and a lot more balanced for my games. But there is like those players that smurf on an account, play in silver just to shit on everyone, and then the next game they'll troll because someone on their team pissed them off. That's lame. But that is just, those players should be reported and then banned, timed, or penalized or whatever. So this is the crazy part. Players will be able to queue for Smite 2 ranked as a solo player or as a party 2, 3, or 5. Solo players will only be match played against other solo players. Parties will only be match played against other parties, and SR is consistent whether queuing solo or with a party. There are no restrictions on rank between party members, so you can play... This is like a very complicated system that they're adding in. It is a... You can play with literally anyone who you want, but the bigger disruption between your SR means the more unbalanced the game is possibly going to be. So if you're 4,000 4,000 SR player playing with your 1,200 SR friend, and you guys are hitting the ranked queues, that game is going to be wonky. It is going to be wonky. Would I recommend doing that? Probably not, but feel free. Feel free. But it will make games still very weird. And this is a part that I'm not super excited about. I do think there should be a limit. It should be the same as Smite, I think, where Diamond can play with Platinum and Obsidian. You can play with like one around you. So if you're a Gold player, Silver, Plat. If you're Masters, you can play with Obsidian or Demigod. That makes more sense to me, but they're trying stuff, they're testing stuff. I think it's fine. I'm going to skip over the progression and customization because there's a lot to go over here that me just yammering about isn't going to mean much. Basically, everything that they're adding in Smites, once it becomes beta and fully released, everything is getting tracked, and there's a multiple different ways to customize everything about your game, your character, who you're playing, your loading screen, all this good stuff. If you guys are very curious about it, go check it out yourself. I'll link this down below so you guys can go look it up if you want to, but a lot of progression, a lot of customization being added. Now we get to some exciting stuff, some balance changes. Skipping over this for a second because this is just overhauling how it looks. Starting gold increased from 750 to 1250. Tower changes. Tier 1 tower health is increasing. Tier 1 tower damage is increasing. Same with the tier 2s. Physical penetration increased from 20 to 30 for all towers. Gold bounty reward is decreased, and the blue bounty reward is decreased also. Phoenixes are also becoming stronger. And then the dual lane width is increased by 2 meters. Mid lane is also increased by 2 meters. Jungle has a small island next to Yellow Camp. Actually, the small island next to it has been shrunk to improve flow. Fire Giant is a lot tankier. So the Ancient Fury now spawns no matter what after 3 Gold Furies have been defeated. It's not 3 Gold Furies by one team. So it can be 2 Gold Furies for one Gold Fury for the other, and then she'll spawn no matter what, which is, I think, a good change. It speeds up flow of the game, makes Gold Fury side of the map a little bit more important earlier into the game, which is good. Oracles have now replaced the middle buff camp on the Gold Fury side, defeating both Oracle spawns awards. So this is literally the exact same Oracles in Smite 1 being added into Smite 2. The Queen Naga spawns at 7 minutes. An announcement will play for all players. Her minimap icon will be visible to all players on the map. She has 4 spawn locations, randomized. 2 on Order side, 2 on Chaos side. And once she has spawned on one side, her next spawn will always be on the other side. So this is supposed to be that mid-game objective. Actually, not even mid-game. This is like an early game objective. Think of it like Scorpions, or I was going to say Beacon, but even Beacon is a little bit later into the game. So this is like your early game objective to kind of play around to give you a little bit of an advantage. So she is actually patrolling and moving around the map. And when she's attacked, she will have a dynamic leash area at her location. When defeated, she drops a new jungle buff called Naga's Assault. What it gives you is dealing damage to an objective or jungle boss spawns 2 Naga soldiers that will assist you in battle. That is interesting. That is interesting. Players defeated if the target is defeated. There's a 20-second cooldown before you can summon another set of... That is very cool. So these are supposed to give you that opportunity to do a Gold Fury or an objective or a tower earlier into the game. That is really interesting. Level 10 players, Naga Soldier is much weaker than a level 20 players. So it's dynamic with your strength and your health and your level. Or sorry, it's dynamic based on your level, not your strength and health based on just your level. And then you actually get superior leadership, which is from defeating 2 Gold Furies. And it stacks with other jungle buffs. Very interesting. Don't care too much about Arena versus AI. You guys can go through that if you want. New god Mordred. Very cool. Deals physical damage, mixed strength and int ability, and basic attack scaling, melee basic attacks, and a light tank base stats. So I would think of him like a Lancelot, more assassin-oriented god, but can have some base tankiness to him. Has a 4-hit chain, attacks in order of Morning, Clarent, Morning with a 1.75.751. Morning's damage scales with 100% strength, 20% int. Clarence damage scales with 100% int and 60% strength. That is interesting. Very interesting. Passive is Wrath of the Forsaken. Hit enemies to gain Wrath. Your ultimate ability, Heart Slash, can only be reused after... So this is like Arthur, where you need to get Wrath to be able to cast your ultimate. After using an ability in your attack, your interact key becomes a dash forward. Wow. That's interesting. Strike twice with your swords. First slash, dealing damage in front of you, then slam, dealing damage in a line and either dealing bonus damage or healing based on your basic attack chain. So there is a lot of weaving. There's a lot of different ways to play him and to play around his entire kit. So it's almost like Arthur, but it's even more intricate than Arthur, because there is combos that are just like your interact key, whatever that is, and then which basic attack chain you're using, which ability you're using, when you're using it. That is really interesting. Ability 2 is Blood Rage. Deal physical damage to enemies around you, then gain increased attack speed and movement speed. While buffed basic attack hits on enemy, reduce their physical protection, increase your own. Severing Slice. Fire a projectile that deals physical damage and slows enemies. Direct hits with the center of the projectile cause targets to bleed, taking bonus physical damage as they move. And then the ultimate Heart Slash. Deal physical damage to enemies in an area in front of you. If you hit an enemy god, they are rooted. You then channel to siphon their life force, gaining a health shield and healing over time while dealing physical damage repeatedly to that enemy. And the powered up version of the ultimate is Pursue the Weak, which is that if you saw it on Twitter, maybe Mario can show you guys it also. It is a massive dash that goes through literally everything and stops on the first enemy god hit. Kind of insane. New god Jingwei. Persistent Gust now has a secondary larger circle, which does not hit enemies, but allows Jingwei to gain attack speed buff without being hit by her own knockup. Interesting. Explosive Bolts now has up to 3 charges per rank. Wow. 9 explosive bolts. Holy. Abilities dash. Agility's dash right now is left, right, turning control available to Jingwei while dashing. I played this. Feels very weird. The dash feels very weird. Everything else with this character felt phenomenal. The dash felt funky. Airstrike can now strike a second time directly back in the direction it was fired from. So you can kind of go up, do damage, and then swing back, do damage, and then drop down. She has ranged basic attacks, physical damage, strength, ability scaling. So she is only she's only strength scaling god. So covering the gods and their damage types on her, Bellona, Cern, Chalk, Fenrir, Jing, Loki, Mordred, Neith, Odin, Susanoo, and Thanatos deal physical. Dealing magical damage is Anubis, Ares, Athena, Bacchus, Hades, Hecate, Kukulkan, Sol, Morrigan, Ymir, and Zeus. And then to go over the god scaling types, these gods only scale with strength, these gods only scale with intelligence, and these gods scale with both. There's a lot of god polish to go over. I'm not going to cover these specifically. If you guys are interested, you can pause the video at any point and kind of cover it. There is just a lot of visual changes to these characters. If you're interested in On Her, Ares, Athena, Bellona, you should have a second to pause it if you're interested in any of these. If not, again, down below will be the link to this video if you guys are interested in anything specific. But I'm just going to be going over the things that I can kind of perceive with just reading. A lot of this stuff is something you'll have to see to really tell the difference. Me talking about Thanatos' basic attack, adjusting the swing audio timings to better match the animation, you'll be like, wow, cool. Awesome. Which it probably is really good, but there's no way to really tell until you actually get into game and try it. So I will not be going over those, but I will be going over this god balance. Since Anubis was shifted into being a more magical god, this is his 2, sorry. The 2 is now magical, and the base damage is still going to be there. It's actually getting raised a little bit, but is now scaling with less int. Ares' basic attacks are now magical. Blessed Armaments, his passive is now only 12.5% of his protections from items, now 20%. Shackles is now magical damage. No Escape is also getting a slight base damage decrease, but an increase to the strength scaling on No Escape. Interesting. Athena autos are now magical. Reach is now magical. Damage shifted from 1.25 basic attacks to 125% strength and 70% int. Wow. So this is 25% more, or no, it would just be the int that's changing, because 1.25% of your times your basic attacks is 125% of your strength, but it's this int that's changing. And this is actually a massive change to building magical on Athena's reach, because beforehand, if you built a bunch of strength, the damage wouldn't change. But if you built a lot of intelligence, your reach really did not feel like it was doing that much damage, because basic attacks only scale at 20% int. But Athena's reach specifically now scales at 70% int, which is crazy. That is a massive buff to Reach's intelligence damage. Preemptive Strike, the dash is now magical. Confound is now taunt. Wow, okay. Confound now actually gets an extra 0.2 seconds per 150 protections from items. So now, if you build a full damage Athena, your taunt will be less in the duration than it would be if you built tank Athena, which is a cool change. Bacchus is now magical. Chug now gets damage based on your protections. It actually scales up, which is pretty interesting. Belly Flop, the damage scaling increased is now going to be based off your protections as well as your strength. And Belch of the Gods, the base damage is going up actually a lot more later, and it also applies anti-heal. Bellona's basic attacks, the hammer's cleave damage is now going to be 66% of your basic attack damage instead of 33, so that's a big change for Bellona. Master of War, her passive, is now getting a really big decrease from 7 per stack to 4 per stack, both magical and physical. Shield Bash is getting a scaling based on protections, this is something that they have added now in a lot of abilities, where she actually gets, or not she, a lot of gods are getting protection scaling, not just strength and not just intelligence scaling. And Eagle's Rally is the same thing. You're actually getting more value based on your protections, more so than just the base numbers. The cooldown is going up 15 seconds though. Sordanos basically just becoming a physical god. Chalk is getting a decent buff to Thunder Strike And Torrent is actually getting more protections and more scaling on it from your int. Fenrir's Unchained does more damage based on your protections, and Ragnarok gets more protections based on your protections. So this is basically allowing Fenrir to be building more tanky, because Unchained, which is his jump, and Ragnarok both are going to be more valuable building protections than they were before, which is cool. Hades, Death from Below, the damage is scaling is going down 5%, but the damage and the base damage is going down quite a bit. Shroud of Darkness now also scales the duration based on your protections. Devour Souls heals 10% of... Interesting. So Hades now heals more based off of his protections. And also Pillar of Agni, he gets scaling physical and magical protections based off of his protections. Okay. They seem to really want to add this to tanks, where the more protections you build, the more protections you're going to get value from in your kit. I think this is an issue that SMITE had with hybrid gods. They had this really, really dominant mid game. It was very hard to deal with them because they just scaled so much with just base numbers, and then every protection you built and every like strength item you built, you just kind of got more value out of. Now, full tank gods that build more tankiness will get more value, which is cool. Cuckoo's getting a slight damage scaling increase. Damage scaling increase from 85. That looks like a decrease. So I don't know if this is supposed to be 90% or if this is supposed to be decreased. I'm going to assume it's an increase and this is supposed to be 90, because this character was not good. And Whirlwind is also getting a flat 20% int. Well, maybe this is a decrease, because this is a nerf. Nerfing Whirlwind but buffing Zephyr would be weird. Maybe it's just double nerf to Cuckoo. I'm not sure. I guess we'll have to figure it out. Loki, Agonizing Visions, remove the damage reduction scaling, remove damage scaling from int. It was funky. It was weird. It didn't make a ton of sense, but it was funny. Neath is now all physical damage. Odin, shield base health increased from 75 to 275 is now 100 to 300. And Gungnir's Might is now physical damage. Same with Raven Shout. Susanoo's Stormkata. Actually, it's just a bug. It says it's a bug. Stellar Burst now scales with both int and strength. 45% int is now going to be 45% int and 25% strength. And then lastly, Ymira is going to be magical autos. Pretty big buff to Glacial Strike. A little nerf to the base damage, but a pretty big buff to the scaling from it. And then Shards of Ice is also getting that's a number that I've never really processed. But I guess it's for every 100 int Ymir builds, he gets more base damage in his insta-pop. So if he builds, we'll say somehow Ymir gets to 900 int, he would be getting an extra 27% damage floor. So instead of 35%, it would be, what is that, 72% instantly, which is kind of actually really cool. So the more full damage you build with Ymir, the more your Shard of Ice instant pop does. So instead of scaling up from 35 up to 100% data fully charged, it would be like 72% up to 100%. That is a cool idea. That is a really cool idea. And the damage scaling increased is now also based off protections too. So there's now value in building Ymir, both tanky and full damage. He felt really weak full damage before because rarely you'd be able to fully charge it. But that is interesting. Items. We went over these last time. I don't think we really have to cover these too much. Starter items are getting added back. You're now getting 7 slots. They're adding a couple relics. You'll only have 3 active items total. They're adding 20 SMITE 1 items. They're also going over a bunch of the old items and either renaming them or giving them new art. Actually, all of them are just getting renamed and using the art from SMITE 1. Actually, no, not all of them, because this one doesn't. Basically, items become a lot more sensible when you're leveling them. They're using more rounded numbers, less 8s, less 12s. It's now just 10s, 15s, 25s, 50s. Some item balance, max monostat, increased efficiency from 3 gold per point to 2 gold per point. Items with mana on them will be cheaper or have more of their other stats as a result. Magical and physical pen are now just penetration. Kin's Blade is getting a revert to deal damage based on target's max HP, not max HP from items only. Executioner, Demonic, Totem of Death. These 3 items all gain stocks of the same piercing buff, so they do not stack. Some changes to like the trees. The Reaper is losing 15 base strength, but also gaining 5% lifesteal. Bloodforge is gaining 25% strength, or 25 strength, sorry, but losing 10 lifesteal. Pharaoh's Curse is losing 10 protections, losing 5 attack speed, but getting 5% or 15% attack speed. Some of these numbers are weird. Also, again, a lot of these things I'm going to have to try out, see how they feel. I'm just kind of saying them just so you guys can kind of hear me say them and try to go over them. But a lot of this stuff I'm going to have to try. And obviously, Smite 2 is dropping very soon. So we're going to have a big opportunity to kind of roll through a bunch of builds, gods, items, all that good stuff. I hope you guys are getting ready to enjoy Smite 2. I hope you guys are ready to embark on this journey with me. If you guys are interested in it, make sure you guys subscribe to the channel. I was very content heavy in Smite 1, and I'm going to be the same way with Smite 2 because I am going to put my all into this game. But I do hope you guys enjoy the video. Hope you guys have all of our today. I'll see you guys again next time. Peace.